Hello there. What's going on, everyone? We are back at it with another episode of Mando Chat. So I hope you guys are ready for this. I do want to start off the episode with a spoiler warning. We are going to be discussing Chapter 12. And we're going to be discussing all the previous episodes also. Well, maybe not all of them, but so if you have not seen the most recent episode of Mando, we gave you like 4 days, so you definitely should have seen it by now. I mean, the spoilers are out there all over the internet right now. So if you're on the internet, you've probably already seen some spoilers from this episode. So we're going to talk about it. And my special guest today is Ryan Swaloski. Hopefully, I did not murder your name because I don't usually say your last name out loud.
Close enough. You got close enough.
Of the Stab Cast. And Ryan, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing awesome. I'm happy to be here.
Some of you guys who follow me may have seen Ryan on the Recover the Supplies that the 5th Trooper was hosting for a while back.
Yeah.
And so that's Choco Lad says Dark Trooper for Legion when? Oh, that's definitely a possibility. I guess we gotta.
We'll get there. We'll get
there. That's a little closer towards the end of the episode, but that's definitely something worth talking about. So you do a Legion podcast. So tell us a little bit about the Stabcast.
So the Stabcast is as you said, Star Wars Legion podcast, and our goal is we're not going to define the meta. We're not going to give you the most solid tactical advice. We do some battle reports, some in air quotes analysis, if you want to call what we do that. But we're 4 guys. We each play each of the 4 different factions, and we let our bias flag fly. And we have a good time. And we started just sitting outside our local game store, and we would sit for 2 or 3 hours after our X-Wing game night, just chit-chatting. And then when Legion came out, we all picked it up. We just decided to move that into a podcast form and put it on the internet.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We've been doing it since day one, and it's been a blast. It's been a fun ride.
So you play Rebels predominantly, correct?
I have played 1 game as Empire in the entire time that Legion has been out, and that is it. And I played it wrong because I got all the points wrong, and I managed to lose with the Imperials at 830 points.
That can happen.
So it was fun.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely.
So I'm like, never again. We're sticking to Rebels.
So a little Legion talk here, just to start things off before we jump into this episode. But I'm gonna ask you, how do you feel about Rebels and like Jin and Pathfinders and all these Rebel points cuts? I mean, like Rebels got like the biggest amount of cuts, didn't they?
I think yes, Rebels got the biggest amount of cuts. I will say, and maybe it's my bias. I think the Empire got the best end of the update.
Well, because with the Gav, with the eWeb.
I mean, just so many of their things that already were viable. Like I think that just that kind of across the board 3-point cut on all heavy weapons and troopers helps them more than anybody else.
Interesting.
And plus, you get the Gav. Plus, Palpatine comes down. Plus, Vader comes down.
Vader is a nice one. Yeah, I've always liked Vader anyway.
Yeah.
Even Commander Vader, which people like seem to condemn across the board, I've always liked Vader anyway. And he's fun for me. But then again, I play like I'm a balance between competitive and fun. Like I want something that's going to be fun but not instantly lose.
Yeah, Vader and Palp are just tricky because they are incredible units to use, but they are unforgiving on both sides of the table. If you make a mistake as the Vader or Palpatine player, you're just SOL. Like your game is over. And while a Veers or a Krennic list you can make a few little misdeploys or a few missteps, and kind of it's not going to cost you as much because they're faster, because you have access to things like Compel, where you can kind of re-up yourself and get back in the game.
Yeah, no, Compel is great. I actually saw the one thing that impressed me was the the Death Trooper that has Compel, DSF-16. She went down. And I say she because I've been corrected so many times. Because
I don't think her points changed. I think she's the same cost, but she got an extra hit point, which is bonkers.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. And she's the only one you need out of the whole. Like she is the reason to take that, because she's a really cheap Compel. That's also you also get a Death Trooper unit with her. You
A
know,
2
so
health Death Trooper unit, no less. So it's going to be even harder to take off the table.
well, only she get the rest of the Death
Right,
Troopers
only
have
she
one.
does. But still, it's a wound, an extra wound on a surging red defense die is not something to sniff at. But I do feel really good about the Rebels. The Rebels are going to – the type of Rebel list you're going to be able to bring is been busted wide open. The T-47 is now it's not just good, it's terrifying.
Dude, they went from surge to nothing on attack. They skipped
surge
right over
hit.
surge to hit, to surge to crit.
Yeah.
That was my number one complaint with the T-47. That, and I wanted the Harpoon to have Pierce, but at least they made the Harpoon free, so I guess there's that. Yeah.
No, and not only that,
I still won't take the Harpoon though, even for free.
That's okay.
I
like it. I like it.
I'll take it for free.
The way Field Commander is going to work for the prequel factions, I think we're going to start to see more tanks with the ATST and the Dewback and the Gav tank all coming down. I think we're going to move towards an armor meta. And with that thing having Impact 3 on its front gun plus Surge crit, like you get an aim token and you're probably going to get 4 crits onto a piece of armor, and it is going to splatter Dewbacks. Across the board.
That's that, and also the extra versatility to compulsory move now. Like you can do your move at the end.
Speeder.
Yeah.
So like they dropped Wedge to a single point, which is great. But I think the speeder keyword, the way they reworked it, now that you can use Wedge's pivot before your compulsory move, because you can now take your compulsory at the end of the round, means that you are never going to have to. The T-47's big problem is you always have to telegraph where you're going to go with it. And now you take Wedge on there and an HQ uplink, and you don't know where you're going to end up, and your opponent doesn't know where you're going to end up because you can turn on a dime, and it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I suppose I didn't have a problem with it because even though I'm pointed this way, like I could turn right, like you don't have to go straight with a compulsory move. So like I still have some, like you don't know where I'm going to be shooting from exactly. And but then again, I don't know. I thought the T-47 was always a really fun unit to run. I've run dual T-47s even when the game was very, very young. But now they're going to be so much better. It's insane.
Yeah, I think they're very competitive now. But yeah, Rebels in a good spot. I was a little surprised. Pathfinders are not cheap enough. I'll say it. They helped them out. They did not help them enough.
See, the problem is you need new white dice because when I play Sean, I can never kill his Pathfinders or his Jinn. It's so rare. Like you need to fire support into them because by the time they've got like duck and cover and they've been shot once already and not dead, now they've got 2. Now they're gonna have 4 suppression.
See, by the time you shoot my Pathfinders once, there's just one guy left, and so what's he gonna do?
You need some new white dice. I think that's what it is. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, you know what? We do sell bad dice prisons, by the way. They're down if you click below the.
That's true.
All right. So we are talking about The Mandalorian. We had season 2, episode 4, which is also known as Chapter 12. And did you watch the episode, by the way?
I would not be here if I didn't.
Okay. No, it was actually
a great episode. Bring on a guest who has no idea what they're talking about. See how long it takes the audience to figure it out.
Like what? So what's a man? What's a man of the? Is this Back to the Future? Is he in a DeLorean? Yeah, that would be really fun. There is a show based on that where they have. I don't know if you've ever seen Star Trek Discovery, but her name is Tig Notaro, I think, and she's their engineer on that show, but she doesn't watch TV or movies or anything like that. So like she has her own talk show now, and they bring on like big name celebrities, and she has no idea who they are, and she has to guess.
That's great. That's awesome.
I'm unsure if I really believe the nature of a show like that. Like so, like you could just fake and pretend like you haven't seen an episode, and then we can kind of just see it. So this episode was called The Siege, and some people I've heard mixed things about this episode as a whole. I thought it was a good episode.
I thought it was a really good episode, and I loved it, and I have 2 problems with it. They're pretty big problems, and we'll as we kind of work our way through the episode.
So I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through pretty much chronologically.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I'm curious what your problems are because I have some questions. I have some things that I don't fully know. Like, there's some things I probably could have Googled a little bit more, but maybe I'm going to rely on the audience watching at home. Be sure to ask your questions, and we will definitely. I see a lot of Dark Trooper stuff. Chris is asking about Armada. There's a new Architans, maybe. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. Armada players have been getting capital starships in this and the last episode. So it's true. Yeah, like I didn't expect there to be any really food for Armada except for maybe one episode. Maybe we'd see a fleet in the background or something. But little by little, we're getting little bits. I think there was stuff for all three games, all three miniature games. There was definitely X-wing stuff in this episode.
Yep.
This whole show is pretty much a Legion show, though, right? Like it's crying out for Legion. But there was
it's crying out for Imperial Assault, but God rest its soul.
Who knows now, right? Right? Who knows about Imperial Assault? If they said it was going to have more, but now who knows? That's a really good. That's the question that's on everybody's minds. That's
clearly the question in the Star Wars miniatures community. It's what's on their mind right now is what's happening to Imperial Assault.
Well, a lot of people it is. A lot of people are like, hey, what's up with organized play? They made a post today saying they will still continue organized play, but it could possibly be different, but it could possibly be the same. It sounds like a big nothing burger to me, but I mean, at least they're putting stuff out. Like
at least they're talking to us, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're trying. I think they don't know yet. And
that's exactly it.
How often is this whole live stream going to kind of tiptoe back and forth to Star Wars miniatures gaming? A lot. Yes.
Yeah, you brought me on the show. It's you.
Yeah. That's what we're both all about. Okay. So we're just going to start the episode now. So chapter 12 starts with a little bit of dude. This is just such a good jokey trope right here of Baby Yoda trying to help Mando fix. He's training him to be an engineer.
It was adorable.
I love this scene. He's like, no, in the back and forth too. This was classic, almost like Ben Stiller comedy right here.
Well, for me, it was like everyone instinctually loves the child. Like you can't not love the child, and if you don't, why are you watching the show?
Yeah.
And how mean is Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau going to be to the child as we go along? Because he's never really. He's been in harm's way, but he's never really been harmed in any real substantive way. And now we're like, oh God, is he going to electrocute himself? Is he going to blow up the ship?
He got thunderstruck pretty much.
Yeah.
And you saw it coming, but they delayed it. Like they faked you out. They've been doing some fake outs this season so far. Like I'm really enjoying the way the season is going so far, the pacing and everything. But outside of episode 2 was a little slower, but it's okay. I was willing to accept it.
Sure.
Especially since it was bookended by like powerhouse episodes, like freaking phenomenally good episodes. And this one was kind of in the middle. It was pretty good, and like it starts out pretty funny. So I loved this. It's just
right.
And you know what? This is the week of Thanksgiving, and even like mentioning like that, we even had like an episode that wasn't that great of a show that just is sets such a high bar for Star Wars, like the way it's been. Like I am so grateful. I'm so thankful, and this is just Thanksgiving talking and a little bit of Scotch talking. That and I'm just so thankful that that we can sit down and talk about shows like this, and that we have this in our lives to make 2020 a little bit less awful. You know what I mean? It's just. It's even having a bad episode of a great show is such a first world problem. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing with this show, man. Like the downer Mando episodes, because I'll agree, episode 2 was a little slow. It felt a little out of place, but it's still better than anything else on TV right now.
Yeah, I mean, unless maybe I haven't started the latest season of the Star Trek stuff, like Discovery and stuff. I'm gonna watch that probably once it's all out. Because I don't run a Star Trek YouTube channel, so I'm like I'm less dependent on having to make sure I get everything in. So I'm gonna wait until like it's like I can chill and just relax and like watch it when my wife and I will watch it together, because we did that last season. But yeah, it's we're getting some really good quality entertainment, and this is a great example. Like we weren't gonna have like much new Star Wars before the Disney buyout and stuff. And say what you will about the sequel trilogy, some people loved it, some people didn't, and a lot of people were in the middle somewhere. But we've got a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. I mean, as much as it pains me, and I want to be an elitist, and I want good movies and nothing but good shows, like even the bad stuff is better than no stuff.
Yeah, like my least favorite was episode 9, looking back.
Oh, by a mile. By a mile.
And mostly because of the expectations and the lack of continuity. Like, episode 9 had great and entertaining things. It had good things in it. And I would love to be able to go and watch episode 9 again in the movie theater. You know, and part of that's just 2020 speaking, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, we miss movie theaters, yeah.
Yeah, but like that whole experience of like, I got my tickets for Star Wars, the new Star Wars movie. Like, having tickets in your hand for opening night of a new Star Wars movie is just a thing that makes me glad to be alive. Even if it's going to be a bad Star Wars movie, right? Even if it's going to be a bad Star Wars movie. I don't, like, it's still awesome. Now, but the cool thing is, there's a chance that it's going to be a pretty good Star Wars movie. There's always that chance, you know? All right, so after we get our little engineering section, which I loved, they're sitting down talking about, like, well, we're not going to be able to make it to Corvus. By the way, I'm really hoping, and I said this last week, but I'm hoping the city Corvus, because it's on a different planet, but the city I think is called Corvus, where they have to go to meet Ahsoka Tano, is I'm hoping we get an Iden Versio cameo, because her ship is called the Corvus, and I wonder if that's like, you know, if those two are related. But you see Mando kind of like lifting up his helmet to take some sips of soup, so it's like he can kind of partially remove it, you know. So it's like,
yeah, and I thought the cool part about that is you know, they did a lot of like the still you're showing now, the over the shoulder of Mando's shot when he's doing it, to where you also see the child like wanting to see, is he going to take his helmet off? Does he take it off in front of the child? And even then he doesn't, even though he was just confronted in the, you know, the day before about the roots of his traditions and are they really sacred? Are they not? Because in the past week he's met two other people who are Mandalorians or not, and they have directly challenged him on that.
Yes, and I feel like that's kind of a direction that this season is going, like, for like long term. You know, you've got like your short term goals, mid-term goals, and long term goals, and I think that's maybe more of a long term goal for the Mandalorian. I think that was part of it, was him earning the armor in season 1. Yep. And this season, part of it's like realizing, what does that armor actually mean, you know? And
does it actually mean to me what I've been told it's supposed to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is your god now, Mandalorian? Yeah, like, it's going to be really interesting where this season ends up. I have the feeling that seasons 1 and 2 were like are going to be like one complete story, and then on season 3 it's going to diverge a little bit. Like, I because they started, like, this came out so close to the first one, you know. I have that feeling that it's going to feel like these two go together, but then in the third one they're going to go in like a slightly different direction, and now it's going to be about like space monkeys or something like that.
I mean, it all really depends on, they're going to have to cut the child at some point. Like, at some point that plot will have to conclude on itself, and it just can't be Mando running away with Baby Yoda for forever, and never getting any resolution on what they choose to do with that. What will we find? Because right now, like, Mando is, you know, such an easy character to understand because his motivation is very simple. Yeah, he's been sent on a quest to get the child to its people, and as far as he knows, his people are little tiny frog people, not just Jedi as an ancient tradition more than a genetic people.
It's a tough one too. Like, I don't think you eventually lose the child. Like, and we're speculating here, and I don't mind speculating.
We know.
Yeah,
we know.
Yeah, I speculate all the time. But yeah. You wonder what people thought about Baby Yoda eating children. That was 2 episodes ago. I'm not going back to. And he wasn't eating children. He was eating unfertilized eggs. Eggs. I've eaten lots of scrambled eggs in my days. I have eaten lots of scrambled eggs. But yeah, still, he was chastised, and he learned his lesson. I feel like that whole arc is resolved because he also saw the fertilized eggs hatch into beautiful little tadpoles, and he's like, oh, I feel like, you know, he's learning a lot here. But I would imagine that, like, we're getting hints of additional paths for the Mandalorian, like meeting Bo-Katan was a huge one, right? Like, that was like, oh, there's more to my entire upbringing than I thought. I was just a cult. I'm only one clan of many, you know. It's like, that's a big alternate way for him to go forward if he wants to, or he may decide he needs to rescue other younglings,
Yeah,
like
I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of different ways they could go with it, but I definitely think that I don't know. I think the crux of this season, and once again, we're in speculation land, is all about Mando coming to terms with what it means to be a Mandalorian to him. Not necessarily in the broadest of structure, because he's meeting all of these people who have different ideas, different values, and they use the same armor and the same traditions to different ends,
yeah.
and in different ways. When
It-
he has been told his entire life there's only one way to do things, one reason to do things, and this is what we do. And all those people, because of him, are now either dead or in hiding.
Yeah, it's. But they were like, and they went along with it. They're like, "This is the way." I'm like, "Really? Is that the way? Because you just lost your home. Is that really the best way?" I don't think they had any children with them at the time, though. So there's that. All right. So we kind of fast forward into the planet Navarro from the first season. We had a lot of episodes there, and of course, this was a familiar scene where the armorer was kind of making armor, and this was kind of like their temple, or even almost like their little religious kind of place. And and we've got a couple of Aqualish that are doing some nasty stolen goods, and they've kind of taken up
made it a
residence.
den of thieves, a little hideout.
Yeah, and so I thought it was kind of cool seeing different types of Aqualish, because we're all familiar with Ponda Baba, right? The guy who lost his arm in episode 4. But I'm thinking to the Clone Wars a little bit. How many of you guys remember Admiral Trench?
Yep.
Yeah, was he an Aqualish as well? Because the Aqualish look like they're kind of based on spiders, and Trench
don't think so. He was. I think he. Maybe I'm wrong. The nerds in the chat can
this
tell
is
me
kind
I'm
of a
wrong.
question for the community. Yeah.
I don't think he was, but he does kind of have some of those same like bulbous face features.
Granted, there are species that are similar. Not all like a lot. There's like 3 different species that have like Leku or head tendrils. All right, of Jedi. Like Ahsoka's one, but she's not a Twi'lek. They're different.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So we get somebody. Legionnaires says he is not. He is not a.
Okay. Good answer. All right.
All right. Well, I'll go with
The
that.
more you know.
Somebody on the internet said it. It must be.
It's
true.
got to be true. It's got to be true.
Legionnaires would not have lied to us.
Oh, I mean, he's a legionnaire, so.
Well, he's legionnaires, like plural. It's an entire legion.
There's
of
many
legionnaires.
legions of legions.
An entire legion of my finest internet sleuths awaits to debunk your claims of racial prejudice in Star Wars. Yeah. Okay, so then we get Cara Dune coming in, and she's we get a pretty good fight scene. She's it's a pretty good choreographed fight scene too. She does some pretty cool stuff, kicking butt, and she kind of puts this dude in like a Frankensteiner almost, and knocks him down, and you're seeing some of that fighting. The fighting moves, and a little bit of like maybe WWE kind of. Although I don't think she ever wrestled in, in sports entertainment. I think she was always like an actual MMA fighter.
I'm not honestly entirely sure.
Yeah,
wrestling was never my forte.
But she still kicks some butt here. Really cool
Absolutely,
stuff.
Yeah.
And she kind of breaks it up, and it's not. I mean, it's just there to establish that she's the law, she's the sheriff. But I really like this. There's one particular move here that she does that I think is really cool, because I'm pretty sure this is a real move, and I've seen people kind of like do this, or at least I think I have. Like it brings back a memory. But she does this where she like runs at this dude, rolls over him, and picks him up. It's like a running roll to pick up somebody that you might not be able to pick up, because she's putting her momentum into that roll. And I am pretty certain that's an actual real technique, because I think they used to teach or at least talk about some of that stuff when I was in the Army, to try and help somebody like pick somebody up off the battlefield that you could if you're by yourself. I don't think I ever actually pulled it off, but again, without practice, it's hard to do. But if you practice, you can definitely pull this off, especially if they have gear and you can like kind of grab onto, like belts and stuff. So really cool stuff, though. Good scenes and good stunt work on this particular scene.
I actually, just from a cinematic perspective, I loved how tightly shot that sequence was, which we don't see with a lot of fight scenes.
Oh yeah, it was. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and of course she murdered everybody, and they're all gone. She does. And then we get like maybe the least cute, supposed to be cute kind of pet. Like I don't like this dude. Also, looked really dirty.
Also, probably I'm going to say this in a very charming way. It was the most charming, unbelievable puppet.
Yeah, it looked like straight out of like Labyrinth or
Yeah,
something like
and I
that,
kind
right?
of loved it for it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, oh, you know what? But that's what they're going for. They're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
1980s, like we need your inspiration," and then like some like psychedelic god with like hammer pants. No, that's 290s. That's early 90s. So with like a hypercolor T-shirt showed up. It's like, "I shall give you 1980s power into this puppet."
Yeah.
But yeah,
It was a neat little plot device. It added some tension.
yeah, and I think it was there to. This guy, because he shows up later in the episode, and I think the purpose of this guy, in addition to possibly being merchandising for something else we're going to see at Galaxy's Edge,
Yeah, probably.
would definitely. I mean, honestly, look, I'm much too cynical at this point to say even the cutest thing. Look at how much Baby Yoda is all over everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Go to Galaxy's Edge and build a Porg, and now you can build this ferret creature.
Freaking muskrat, it looks like a dust bunny ferret or something. I don't know. But yeah, so but no, he was cute.
Legions in the chat, tell us what that is.
Yeah, I wonder if he's got a Wikipedia entry yet. But I'm gonna call him.
I'm sure he does.
A muskrat for now. Yeah, but yeah, so he's cute, and she saves him, and she's like, "All right, get off of Dust Ferret." Yeah, I like Dust Ferret. So yeah, so we get Mando's landing. He's coming down on this planet. Then this is kind of after the intro credits. I heard somebody say Duskrat. JJ says Duskrat. Tom Walker says shoulder beaver. I'm like, I don't. No, I don't like that at all. That's. But yeah, so Mando comes down and like his ship is messed up. And I actually put the wrong picture in here, but it's too late now. We're doing it live. But I meant to have the image of him trying to like his landing gear doesn't come down all the way, right. And he has to like kind of hop down off of it. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. So he needs repairs.
One of the things I actually really liked about this kind of establishing shot is it completely transposes. When Mando left this place last, his ship was in good condition and the town was a hot mess. And he's been gone for X amount of time. And he comes back and his ship is a hot mess. And the town is, at least for that first kind of walking in sequence, fairly well put together.
Yeah, it's a total transformation. The town is doing great. And yeah, it's Star. Well, we're getting more names for this little thing. Star Marmot.
Marmot's my favorite.
Star Marmot
send
is
that to
really
Disney,
good.
Please.
Yeah, Space Ferret, which is good.
Perhaps work your connections.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I'm going to submit shoulder beaver though, and then they're going to put me on spam, and then I'm not going to get any more emails through. But yeah, so he gets his Grief Karga and Cara Dune kind of greet Mando, and they're like, "Hey, buddy, we haven't seen you since last. Thanks for resurrecting our careers." And Pedro Pascal. Have you seen the meme where he's in back pain and he's in the hospital for carrying the Disney franchise on his back? Yep. Yeah. So he's like, I'm going to put my best people on it. And dude, these guys are straight out of like 1980s costuming, right? Mm-hmm. Like totally. And so the camera really showed, like, kind of lingered on these guys, especially the guy on the right, that more alien guy, for way too long. So like I was initially thinking that something was up with this guy.
Also, they totally look like the 1990s Agents of Hydra.
Oh my goodness, they do kind of look Hydra.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god. Tip off that they're the bad guys. Spoilers for the spoiler show.
Long live the Empire. Yeah, it's like the new Hail Hydra. But this other guy that's on the right, I don't know if Ryan, I don't know if you play Star Wars Squadrons at all.
Yeah.
But that I don't recall what race this dude on the right is, because I don't look up all the races.
Gunny from Squadrons.
Yeah, that race is like a new race they kind of introduced recently, and they're also in there.
They weren't actually in. They actually made their debut in Solo. You see some in Effie's Nest.
Okay, well there you go. But
power to you.
All right. Well, now they're all evil because this person just put a bad name on the entire species. Yep. I guess it makes me speciest.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. But yeah. So then they're walking through the town. Cool thing I learned about this is they have like a new studio now. So like the whole backdrop and all of that was not really there, and that was part of like their like not green screen, but instead of a green screen, they actually have like these projection like walls that.
So it's basically what it is, because for a brief time I was a a very terrible cinematographer, and
Okay.
it's this big circular modular that they can move LED wall that they can just project whatever they need to, and they've got sensors everywhere and sensors on all the cameras, and so as the camera, whatever camera you're shooting with, moves, it's displaying whatever needs to be in the proper ratio for that camera to be able to look appropriate.
Oh man, that's the tech there is like the tech they're using to make this show is really incredible. Now I'm sure they go back and they CGI and touch it up and everything because it would look more low budget if you were just looking at TVs in the background. So they put filters on it and all that. But some people in the chat have talked about IG-11 has a statue now too.
Yeah.
I missed this my first time watching through though.
There's they hide so many things in this show, like you can't catch it all.
Of course not. No, and there's a lot of aliens in the background too. Like I've watched this episode 3 times now, and I'm sure I'll still catch more from this episode. Not super important stuff, but that's but it's cool. It's seeing the statue to IG-11 is pretty nice.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, like the cool thing for me that Star Wars does from a storytelling perspective that for me Star Trek or a lot of other sci-fi doesn't do, Star Wars has always felt lived in. Mm-hmm. And I think all the different aliens and all these dynamic backgrounds and the way cities shape and change, like it never feels like this place was built just for our crew to walk through, but it was actually built for people to live in, and people have lived there for a long amount of time.
I think that's definitely a thing. You touched on something there, and I think a thing that adds to that is that like every single character on screen has a backstory, and that can be actually frustrating sometimes too. But it's like it's very different than Star Trek, where everybody's just red shirts and stuff. Like you don't have like red shirts. I mean, I guess you do have stormtroopers. But every single stormtrooper has a backstory, and there's like if a book hasn't been written about him yet, Lucasfilm will put it out soon, So they go inside this is the bar that we actually had that huge shootout at, and multiple scenes in season 1 that they've totally rebuilt and they've turned into a school.
It's adorable.
It is nice. We get actually a cute scene coming up here, but I want to point something out, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the arches in this bar mirror Ahsoka's Leku.
Interesting. I hadn't noticed that, but now that I see you've put this up, that is interesting.
I wonder if it's just a little foreshadowing, like if it's not meant to be anything deliberate, or if it's just them letting you know. It's like, patience, young ones.
That's funny. That's cool. I had not picked up on that.
Yeah, I thought.
Kudos to you, sir. Kudos to you.
Thank you. And so we got a protocol droid kind of teaching, and it's a very Star Warsy thing to have happen, and. Actually, you can kind of pick up on some cool little Easter eggs of different routes and different runs and stuff. And they even talk about Kessel a little bit here, and like how many orbits and stuff. I guess there's 2 if you listen really closely. So like some cool little things. But then of course we get space macaroons, and like this is a really cool scene. Baby Yoda's like he tries to do the light side, and when it fails, he's like, all right, I'm gonna try the dark side way. I'm just gonna steal this kid's macaroons.
Just take it, yeah.
Yeah. Nobody can eat these things without getting crumbs. Like this kid was eating them, and he had them like all over his face. Like put the macaroons in your mouth, kid. Like I guess the protocol droid is just not a good disciplinarian because the kids can get away with whatever they want. But then like
this moment actually is strike number 1 on the episode for me. Our whole identity of the show, and granted it's kind of happened before, but our whole identity of the show is where he goes, I go. And like
he started with that. He did protest.
Yeah, he protested, but then there was like, oh come on, and then he's like, oh that's fine. I will just literally in this building where I nearly died. All of my friends have died in this planet that I haven't been to, and yeah, I trust some people here, but I'm just going to put this very precious thing down and walk away. I don't know, kind of, and I understand why it needed to happen for a plot device, but I was like, really, we're gonna make a big deal about always going with the child, and we're just gonna drop him down in this former bar.
It did seem like he relented a little quick, and I feel like that was done for time. Like if you had and here's something that I don't get. Like this is on demand stuff, so like
ding ding ding, here we go.
They don't have to cut time. Like this was a short episode; it was only 39 minutes. They could have made it like 41 minutes and had like 2 extra minutes of like argument and protest. None of us would have tuned out, right?
I mean, yes and no. Like you do have to keep your plot snappy And so while they don't have a hard stop for commercial breaks or a runtime, for their editing and their pace of story, they do have to cut things and make it flow. And I guess this is just where they decided to do that. But I don't know that an extra scene to kind of establish that this is a safe place, if that really would have taken us out of it. So maybe, but they're better at making TV shows than us. So
yeah, this is true. I mean, I felt a little bit of what you felt, but for me, it's just a very, very minor criticism. Like, I think it would have been a little bit better of a sell if maybe not an extra minute or two of making it a safe place, but an extra minute or two of him being really uneasy with leaving the child. Because there's a payoff for that later when he abandons them, when he thinks, oh, the child might not be safe. Sorry, guys, I'm out. And he leaves right away. We'll get to that too, but like that would have felt like it paid off the extra minute or two worth of like argument or almost fighting, over this. So yeah, I mean that could have been.
We did get Blue Cookie, and everyone wants Blue Cookies now. Like
again,
6 weeks,
something else
Oreo
we're going to see at
sell
Galaxy's Edge.
Cookies.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to be at Galaxy's Edge for sure. You're going to get the space macaroons, like 100%. And that's why they made them a little thinner, so they weren't straight up like Target brand macaroons. Like it's copyright it's all about the copyright. And I promise you this, they will come in a freaking aluminum or like a foil wrapper. Yeah, no doubt about it. I'll say this: he did leave the kid one when he pulled it. I don't think that was by choice. He did leave the kid one more. All right. So then they go to the office to start business, and like dude farts himself, and I love this Mithril. This is one of my interesting things about this is my gripe with the episode, is that this was really the Mithril episode, and I did not like the way they treated this guy. Granted, wasn't really the most honorable guy, wasn't the nicest guy in the world, but it wasn't just the way that they were talking to him, but it was more about the way the script treated Mithril. And this is my minor criticism of the episode. I liked the introduction. I loved the whole secreting the glands and stuff. I thought that was actually very clever. And he's funny. He's Horatio Sands. I love Horatio Sands. And because he used to be on Saturday Night Live, and I used to really, really enjoy him on Saturday Night Live as well. But yeah, so he comes in. They're kind of surprised that they explain the whole like he's working off his debt, and so Grief Karga is the one that actually put the bounty on him from episode 1, and it's also a nice throwback to episode 1.
Yeah.
And here's where the role play aspect comes in. Like, and this is something they've been doing this season, is showing maps. And I thought that that's really kind of cool, because one of the things a lot of people say is like, why is it that every city on a planet, or like every planet in Star Wars, only has like one environment, right? And,
it's just one biome. It's desert planet, it's sinkhole planet, it's jungle planet. Yeah,
exactly. And so I feel like they're kind of owning up to that here, and be like, look, we're here, but this is like the only habitable part of this planet. Like, basically, not every planet is robust as Earth, and then the whole planet is mostly habitable. A lot of these planets are only partially habitable, and so that's why you see only the one biome. And so like there, and the cool thing, this was actually a bigger thing than the Tatooine episode, but like they showed you like on the map like where Mos Eisley was in relation to Mos Espa, and the elevation and stuff in between those, and I'm like, cool. Yeah, like I'm sure, I'm running an RPG right now where people were just on Tatooine and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that is really cool. I could have used that like a couple of weeks ago, guys.
Right? Yeah. Come on, get it together, Disney. I need this for my tabletop game.
Exactly. So no, like I kind of like that they're kind of going into this level of detail. It's such a tremendous attention to detail with this show, and I think it's really cool. Although I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, actually, that's incorrect. Sure. That's like Mos Espa should be 2 inches higher on that map, as referenced by the old West End games. Whatever. I'm sure it's gonna be on there. But they talk about the Imperial base, that that there's still a little stronghold left, and they need to go in there. And it's unclear if they want to just destroy the base or if they want to get all the weapons, because Grief Karga is like, how much this stuff could go for on the black market. But then at the same time, they're like, oh, but all the guilds are going to come like looking for it, and like, all right, so do you want to get it and sell it, or do you want to blow it up, or, I mean, maybe a little bit of both,
Yeah, well, I think everybody at that table wanted to do something different with those weapons. Obviously, Grief probably just wanted them out, so it wouldn't be a reason for raiders or outlaws to come and try to steal them. Kara probably just doesn't care, and she just wants the Imperials gone, and obviously, our blue friend.
He would be interested in the pay. Yeah. No, of course. And so, and he kind of expresses that. So, the board game captain says, I wanted them to say, "What's that smell?" when they came into the room, because after dude kind of, no, that's funny. I recognized the foul stench the moment I walked in. That would have been a good throwback. That would have been, but Mando doesn't usually say things like foul stench. So
yeah,
no, that's funny. So they Mando agrees because they're going to repair his ship for free. So this is kind of like him working it off, and he's got some time. Apparently, though, they do quick repairs because
we'll get there.
We'll
get there.
Some really quick, So and I initially thought, I'm like, you know what, it's fine because it probably took them like hours to get to this place. Like that's what I'm thinking on the way. I'm like, this is probably hey, it's 9:00, we're gonna head out. We'll get there by 5.
Yeah. So to me, the big crux of that meeting is Mando doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to endanger himself or the child. This has nothing to do with him. It sucks for y'all. I'm sorry, but my priorities are different now.
Yeah, look how small that little red dot is on the map. You got all this green. No, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. But then they catch him by saying, well, this is, your ship is going to take some time to fix. Granted, they don't exactly say how much, but if you're going to go and blow up an Imperial outpost, theoretically that takes, it's going to take a reasonable amount of time to do more than a jolly afternoon.
Yeah, but that ship's going to take 2 hours. We can totally, And my thought process is the siege, as we see it, ends up taking, the majority of a day, and that's what we kind of have to. That's what you kind of have. But still, even one day for a ship that size to be repaired is awfully quick. But I'm gonna suspend my disbelief just a little bit. Yeah, I that should take a week. That's my guess. It should take. Now, you can also justify it a little bit that he had partial repairs done on the last planet.
But I mean, you see this thing buckled down with different. Once again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Well, let's put a pin in this conversation.
Okay.
We'll come back.
We'll come back to it. Okay, that sounds good. So all right, so we get there. This is the next part of the stuff that I didn't like about them, the way they were talking to Mithril. And I don't know if this is because of the writing or because of the direction or what. Because Carl Weathers actually directed this episode, and I think he did, for the most part, I think he did a good job with it.
Yeah.
But the way that everybody was down talking to Mithril was, I think, overdone. And I get that, he's in this guy's debt, and it's almost like a comic aspect, but
right.
But where I mean it was overdone is in this particular scene, he pulls him up, he wants to leave. They're like, no, you're not going to leave. You blah blah blah, and I'll take some more time off of your debt to kind of convince him. But he's also he's berating him at the same time. Mm-hmm. But so he's like, all right, well, get that thing and come over here and try and get this door open. So Mithril is his accountant. He's also his driver.
Yeah, kind of. That was my kind of question. Why was he even there?
Yeah, well, because apparently he's the only one that knows how to do anything, and that's where I'm bringing this, because I'm going to come back to this many times, because Mithril is the accountant, right? He's the money guy. That's a career specialty. He's also a driver. Okay, that's not as big of a deal. I guess he's the only one that had a car. Go figure. But apparently he's also a welder, because he now knows how to open doors. All right.
Yeah, he has a slicer too. Yeah.
Committing one crime immediately means you know how to do all crimes, right?
All crimes, all the crimes.
But when he's telling him to come over here and help him get this door open, and of course you would bring a slicer that he said it was rated for plumbing too. So it also means he's a plumber. I'm going to say that. But he says, hurry up. And then he says, again, he's like, hurry up. There was, if you were in a rush for time, there was 3 insults in a row. Grief Karga tells him to hurry up twice, within 4 seconds. And then Cara Dune is like, how long is this going to take? I'm like, I get it. You guys are impatient with him and want to berate him, but you're giving him the exact same, the text wasn't even very, so I don't know if this is the script thing or it's a little improv, but it felt a little sloppy to me.
So one of the things that kind of went through my head while watching was that whole bit with Mithril. I would have loved to have seen both before the attack on the base and even after, that's just the way that they communicate with each other. Like Mithril is defiant to everything. Grief tells him he'll take and or add more time off his debt. And that's just the way that they comically communicate the unpleasant arrangement that they have. And they can't come to terms with being friends or partners or colleagues or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And that would have been a really interesting bent, but they didn't show us any of that. We just saw them being mean to him.
And it's not even just the being mean part, but it's the lack of diversity in the insults. Like just saying you could make a drinking game. If you watch this again, make a drinking game for every time Grief Karga says the words "hurry up," and I'm like, there's so many clever things. Like if you move any slower, I'll add another year to your debt, or something like that. Like just diversifying it a little bit would have sent the same message, but wouldn't have been like, because it started to annoy me after hearing him say "hurry up" over and over and over again. But I get annoyed. Like I was telling my wife, I'm like, we were driving somewhere one day, and she's like, "You need to take 417. It's a road in Orlando." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't think I need to take 417." Or she kept saying 417, and she said it so many times, and I looked at her, I'm like, "Why do you keep saying 417? Like, what? Are you trying to like trigger some kind of subdermal? Like, you think I'm a sleeper agent, and like if you say 417 enough times, it's going to wake me up?" And we get into this ridiculous argument about complete nonsense about 417, right? And she was right. Yeah, well, she was right because she heard me. She's like, "I was right." Yeah, well, you were right, but I didn't know where we were going. I thought we were going somewhere else. And so, but the point was, there was a reason why she kept saying 417, because I was going to go the wrong way. But in this case, Grief Karga is not my wife, and he just kept saying "hurry up." So all right. Anyway, so Mando flies up, and he kind of does the job for them, and we get a little comic, stormtrooper bodies falling down, and So he opens the door for them from above, and they get on board, and Mithril wants to wait, and they're like, "No, the lava's going to come by," which didn't come by, but oh well,
Yeah, it's a clever plot.
It appears that this place is a place that is prone to potential lava flooding.
Yeah, I think they even called it, which I thought was interesting, a tide.
Yes,
So
yeah.
The tide comes in and out of hot magma death.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is actually maybe more of an indication for your pet peeve. There is like they weren't even long enough for the tide to come in.
Right. Yeah. So
they were like there for like less than an hour. Well, because the episode was only 39 minutes.
39 minutes long. Yeah.
So I turned on the subtitles for this one because when they get up there, Mithril's like, "Look, it's a Mint Trexler Marauder," and I'm like, "Oh, merchandising." Now,
merchandising,
which we kind of already have, but I'm not sure that this is exactly the same troop transport that we have the toy for already. I feel like it's a slightly like a different model. Like a TIE fighter versus like a TIE scout or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think this is the one that we see in Rebels. They use a handful of times.
Well, see, what I remember from like Rebels is they had compartments on the outside for like the dudes to stand in and like rapidly deploy, and this one has more guns. So I feel like this is more like the combat version as opposed to the transport version or something like that. But I'm not 100% sure, and like this is probably worth waiting and seeing. But like this definitely once this thing gets going, it's just like I want this in Legion. But
yes.
But it also kind of I want to depart for just a moment.
Okay.
Well, I'll do it later once we get to this thing in action, because remind me, I want to talk about like atomic mass games and what they could do with something like this.
Sure.
So
okay.
All right.
We're gonna buckle in, viewers. We're gonna be all over the place.
Closed transport, yes, which apparently you can still fire out of closed transports too. Right? Like, I think I still have to go back and read the rules reference guide again.
I don't think you can, because I don't think you can from closed transports. I think that's their whole shtick. But
you could always do a closed transport that has the special rule that says you can't. Like, if it's a closed transport with gun holes, you could just be like, that could be one of its new keywords.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it doesn't. We can argue about it until we're blue in the face now, but we don't have anything that has that keyword in Legion, so why worry about it?
Because it's fun too. It's so much fun too. Okay. So they
Wookiee Trooper. That's all I'm going to say. Wookiee Trooper.
Oh my god, I know, right? Like the last thing of FFG was like, and Wookiee Troopers are.
Wookiee Troopers are just like troopers, and they do nothing until they do.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? How funny would it be as like, oh wait, atomic mass is taken over? Let's put one more thing in the rules reference before we publish it. Let's do something that's gonna drive people crazy.
It's going to drive people up the wall. Yeah.
Let's put Wookiee troopers in there. Oh, I love that. I love it. So then they're asking Mithril to slice doors, but then he's like, "But use the code cylinder." I'm like, if you're using a code cylinder, how is that slicing a door? That's just opening a door.
Right.
Break this door open, but use the key. I'm like, But so he's also apparently, but the fact they asked him to slice, it's like, so he's also a slicer. So this dude is the MacGuffin, or not MacGuffin, but what's the word when somebody can just do it, like the Mary Sue or the Mary Blue? The Mary Blue.
Yeah. Jesus.
He's the Mary Blue.
He's the Mary Blue.
He's the Mary Blue of this episode. He just does everything. And I feel like everybody else has done like nothing up to this. Well, Mando did kind of fly up and get them in, but it seemed like he was about to get them in anyway if he just had more time.
So what they're going to do with this character, mark my words, is he's going to get, maybe later this year, probably next year, he will get a 6-issue Marvel comic run that explains why he knows how to do all these things. We'll see whatever he did to earn his bounty.
Yes.
This is all just forward merchandising.
Yeah, they do those books from a certain point of view.
Yeah. We'll get his side story. Absolutely.
I'm reading one right now, the Empire Strikes Back version, and it's like the one from A New Hope was really cute because you had a lot of different tie-ins and hooks for these stories, but in Empire Strikes Back you have much less, such that most of the backstories are characters that were never even on screen. Like there's this rabbit character, and it's all about like how he was inspired by Lando to be different, but it had nothing to do with the film at all. And I'm like, all right, these aren't even like, you're not even you're inventing new characters to give backstories to when so I'm like, but this guy's gonna get his whole book. You're right.
Yeah, he'll get something.
Yeah. And of course, then we get to this is straight out of episode 4. This is like a New Hope payback. This whole scene with them trying to overload the reactor. It's just like the tractor beam scene.
I did love the line, "There's no guardrail." Like,
oh my, yeah.
To have a tiny platform that's maybe 18 inches wide for someone presumably in full military body armor to operate, with no guardrail with magma below, seems smart.
Well, also, isn't this like a Easter egg for Robot Chicken?
Is it?
Or Family Guy or something like that? Because I think it was Family Guy, like Blue Harvest, when like they were like the first ones to be like, "There's no guardrail," I'm like, "Yeah, you'll be fine." I don't know. Yeah, Family Guy. So JJ says it felt like it was out of a Family Guy episode, so it could have been. But yeah,
no space OSHA.
But also, not only is it like kind of reminiscent of Obi-Wan, kind of turn off the tractor beam,
like even the mechanisms look the same.
Oh yeah.
Once again, Mary Blue knows exactly how to operate this particular piece of machine.
He didn't even have to slice it. He's just an expert on how to overload reactors that deal with lava.
Yeah.
You know what the book is? The book is going to be like, what's that movie about the Indian guy who was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Slumdog Millionaire.
Slumdog, yeah.
It's going to be Slumdog Blueionaire or something like that.
Get your treatment, send it to Disney Quick Grabs. I need you to. I'll write the foreword. I'll let you write the book.
Absolutely. And so, but also it reminded me a little bit of like the Luke and Leia as like before they swung across, because it's like, there's no bridge, there's no walkway. Like, and if you look down, you saw all kinds of other, like they look down, there's all kinds of other openings like closer to the lava. I'm like, what? Why design this in like a hallway just that?
I mean, if you look at the frame that you've got up on screen, like they literally could put the command console on the other side of those doors. There's clearly a wall panel.
Yeah, or just they could have put like a little bit more of a walkway, like right there. Like it's like, I know you don't have to tippy toe. I'm like, all the budget you guys have, and you couldn't put like an extra 3 inches of walkway. It's just craziness. So we get they overload the reactor. They're running, and like they're kind of approaching this thing, and you get some guys who are like, purge the discs, and they just a shootout. And we get a little thing that's become kind of a viral thing. A lot of, I didn't notice this at first, but eagle-eyed viewers noticed an extra kind of standing off to the left. If you guys can see below Grief Karga's arm there, you got like a production assistant standing back there. He thought he was out of shot, and this made it into the final cut. It's still on there right now too.
Yep, and we can see Blue Jeans Man.
Yeah, and there it is. I'm zooming in a little closer. You guys can see, and he's got his shirt and blue jeans, and so this is canon, right? Mm-hmm. So
I want to say someone already put a Wikipedia entry in for him.
there it is. Admiral Jeff Blue Dash Jeans. Admiral Jeff Blue Jeans. Now, I pulled this image off the internet, but as of like 4 or 5 p.m. today, like it had been redacted from Wikipedia. So like you can still see the entry, but you click on it and it's like it's all erased and like so like I think there's some debate on whether or not they want to keep this guy canon or not. Like it probably shouldn't be. It should be chalked up as just a blooper, you know.
Right.
Because
I think my favorite was the meme that people have posted with that still with the old '90s Kenner cardboard bubble action figure that's like half the door and the guy's arm and body. So you can buy the Kenner action figure of Blue Jeans Man.
oh, that would be fun. No, I love it. I think this is it's gonna be one of those things because especially when something is so well done. Like this was a pretty well done episode, you know, as far as episodes go. It was like about in the middle, which is
And
really
he
good.
asked the AD, the assistant director, like 4 times, "You're sure I'm out of shot, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's fine."
That's so fun. And of course, you know, Carl Weathers was the director. He couldn't see it. He
Yeah,
couldn't.
well, I mean, that's because it's tricky when you're the director and in front of the camera.
No, it was really funny. But then they get you know, basically they determine that this is not a forward operating base, you know, and there's a whole and there's more line repetition here too. The whole I thought it was like you said that earlier when you said I thought the base was evacuated. I thought it was. It's not a forward operating base. I thought it was, and it's a lab. And you see these, and a lot of people are like Snoke, and I don't think. I don't, and I'm curious what you think. I don't think this has any relation to Snoke whatsoever.
It does and it doesn't. I think it is not right now any relation to Snoke, but I think it is related in the overall meta narrative that wherever this leads will eventually lead the breadcrumb trail to Snoke. Like if they're working on their cloning technology now, Snoke is the pinnacle of it.
Okay, so. There's 2 problems I have with that, which I mean, and that's not a bad theory. I'm not poo-pooing your theory. I think there's 2 things. I have 2 points that say that it's not cloning or Snoke. First off, is if it were, I feel like these guys would be more connected to the First Order or more related to First Order stuff.
That's perfectly fair.
And since and this is after like timeline stuff for everybody at home or for anybody who's not familiar. 1 year after Return of the Jedi, they had the battle at Jakku. And at that point, Ray Sloan kind of left. All the Imperial people who were going to found the First Order had already left on board the Eclipse, which was a Super Star Destroyer. Ray Sloan left, met up with them, and then that was the Empire that founded the First Order. And a lot of them had left a year ago. So they were like the advanced detail. So this dude being in the Outer Rim was not at the Battle of Jakku, was not killed in the Battle of Jakku, was not part of it. Like that's the Imperial remnants that exist right now were not part of the greater aligned empire at the end, you know, by the time of the Battle of Jakku. And so that would mean he has no connection to the First Order. At least at this point in time, presumably. Granted, there could be stuff going on behind the scenes, but I have to assume based on the timeline and what I know that this is very separate from the First Order.
Like I said, if this is connected at all, it's just in the fact that there is
the technologies,
bioengineering going on in some way, shape, or form.
But then the other thing is that if they're based on what they're doing, it sounds like they're trying to inject people with the child's blood, as you're kind of seeing when we get this hologram from the same doctor from season 1, and then they're getting like they had success for a fortnight, like they had like limited. Basically, for you guys, if you guys haven't seen the end, they're trying to create some kind of super soldier, and we see what that is at the end of the episode. But by injecting people with Baby Yoda's blood, and they've tried this before with Force. Basically, anybody who's Force sensitive, they try to use their blood to inject it into other people, and I think this is the result of. Trying to do a Force blood transfusion, trying to create a super soldier, and the body rejects it. And I think this is so instead of cloning, I think this is more of genetic manipulation.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
Yeah, but the 2 could be related. You know, if you go back to Heir to the Empire, and this show certainly does pay tribute to a lot of Legend stuff. That was what they needed the Yislamir for, is to block out the Force, because the Force had something to do with cloning. And so like those two could be related. And it does stand to reason that maybe the First Order, when they do start inching their way back into the galaxy, will get in touch with Moff Gideon or some of these people and be like, hey, cloning technology. Well, we know somebody who, is interested in that. So we can bring you into the fold if you share your research with us. And thus, because Snoke wasn't there from the beginning. At the beginning, it was Ray Sloan and Brendel Hux, So I'm really interested to hear that story. The whole First Order, or like the first couple of years, the pioneer years of the First Order. I want to hear all about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get there. I mean, Star Wars has strategically left big gaps for them to explore, and I'm personally thankful for, because like you, I GM Star Wars games, and it gives me lots of fun playgrounds to write our own stories in, until they tell us we're wrong.
True. Yeah, and that's fine. You can always be a mirror universe. You can be like, oh well, like I had some of my characters meet Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm not like, anything could happen here, but they're probably not going to be able to take him.
So the cool thing, for just on a very personal note about this sequence with the, if we're going to call them Dark Troopers, we can call them Dark Troopers, but it's very clear that they are trying to take, which I love that they used the M word.
The M count, right?
Yeah, the M count, and create, supposedly we're going to go out on a pretty, what I feel is a pretty sturdy branch, and say create some kind of force sensitive or force latent super soldier. The second Star Wars campaign I ever ran, this was the story. All of my PCs, unbeknownst to them, escaped an Imperial prison, that this type of thing was happening to them.
And they didn't remember at the beginning.
They didn't know. They just knew that they were rescued and had to come to terms with this. And the whole story was them discovering it. And that, to me, just, obviously the creators had no idea, but it was very special to me, because I'm like, hey, I've done that. I did this years ago.
I feel like there's so many things like that in this series and in this episode too, that are paying tribute to the past. Like, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are fans, and like I think and for Dave Filoni, he's been in it so long. It's like he's a fan, but he's also a businessman. But Jon Favreau's come into Star Wars far more recently, so he's bringing a lot of that fresh fandom with him, and it's such a great combination. Like, this is just pure gold, man. I'm loving this.
And even to me, like, you can watch a lot of shows and you can tell when writers are RPG players. And, one of the guys who's the Pablo Hidalgo, who's one of the keepers of the Star Wars canon now, his first job was working at West End Games writing RPG books.
I think I remember. He actually removed himself from social media, so I don't get to interact with him as much anymore.
Yeah. I got to meet him a couple Gen Cons ago, and it was like the highlight of that Gen Con was getting like a 2.5 minute conversation with him. But this to me feels like, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, whoever is the game master of, your Dungeons and Dragons, your Star Wars RPG game, but only one of the players can regularly show up. You've got 7 other friends that can sometimes make it, and they come to game night from time to time.
Yeah. Well, there was the one, the prison heist last season. That was like the ultimate one shot RPG. It was was incredible. And so I'm really glad you brought up that, because we get our little our thing here. Like, they think that it was an old message, but they're like, no, this was only 3 days ago. So the big point here is that they determined that Moff Gideon lived. And this makes Mando like freak out, so he's got to run back, because he's like, oh my gosh, somebody still wants the child. But going on to the RPG thing, they get ambushed again, and like everybody's killing stuff, and then like the last 2 guys, Mithril's just like whatever, but like puts his hand up blindly and just like bullseyes 2 stormtroopers without looking. So
he rolled the triumph with 2 advantage, man.
Oh, he absolutely did. Like, it was just a dream roll. He rolled a double critical. I have to say double crit now so I don't get sued, because I guess there's a game company called Double Critical that had they had my podcast taken down. They didn't even reach out to me. Yeah, they sent an email and it was just deleted. Like, I didn't even have the opportunity to do anything. I'm like, I could rename it. They're just like, no, it doesn't exist anymore. And then they kept billing me for it too. And I'm like, how are you going to erase my podcast and then keep billing me? Like, not even an email. Nobody even said anything. Yeah.
I just figured you got kind of busy. That's why I stopped seeing things.
No, Podbean kind of screwed me over, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little mad at them. I'm a little sorry. I wrote him a couple of nasty emails about it. Anyway, but either way, so he rolled a double crit, and very cool stuff though. I thought that was kind of funny, and that just brought because now he's also a gunslinger too.
Yep.
On top of everything else.
At this point, I know you had a problem with Mithril, but at this point I kind of love that he's here because we have, the super badass rebel commando, the operator in Grief, the decked out Mandalorian, and the team is getting carried by the little blue guy.
Oh no, I mean it's ridiculous. I get the humor in it, but like part of me is like, you're being mean to this guy the whole time, but he's the only one doing anything. All of you are staring at this clone. You're like, pull up the data, hack their system, pull up the holographic recordings. I'm like, none of y'all know how to do that. Maybe you should be a little nicer to this dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he had to go to the chiropractor after this episode for carrying everyone.
Exactly. So Mando gets to do a cool superhero landing. I thought that was pretty awesome. And all of a sudden now, when it's just Mando too, stormtroopers can actually aim.
Because he's got the armor, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, or maybe they just had the crack shots on the roof, the guys who had passed basic training,
Well, they did it in a previous episode, but I want to say they did it in this fight too. The thing that honestly, as a Star Wars nerd, bugs me more probably than anything else this show has done, where he turns around and blocks laser bolts with his jetpack, and it's fine because it's covered in the Beskar, but Boba Fett bumps his with a pointy stick, and it goes flying off into oblivion.
Yeah, I think they they left the door open for that a little bit in the other episode,
right?
Because he's like, and tell your people that I didn't break that. I think it was already broken, so it was already faulty. I think that's what they're going. They left the door open that could explain it multiple ways. But I think that's one explanation. It's he already had a faulty jetpack, and to be fair, he should have gotten it repaired instead of hanging out at Jabba's palace, kind of flirting with the singing girls. Yeah. So,
but then again, Boba Fett, and people are going to be mad at me, but Boba and Jango Fett aren't real Mandalorians.
Well, I think I mean that's canon. That's not even your opinion.
Yeah.
That is canon. And as a matter of fact, I'm talking about the book I'm reading right now, the short stories about Empire Strikes Back. And the other one's about the other bounty hunters. They refer to him as that Mandalorian or that fake Mandalorian or whatever.
Yeah.
A Mandalorian wannabe or whatever. So it wouldn't surprise me if I'm sure we're going to see more of. I hope we see more of Boba. They had that epic tease in the first episode.
Yeah.
And this show has done a good job of not leaving you hanging about things usually for too long. The first season, they would cliffhanger, but then they answer it very next episode.
The first big thing they announced is that Ahsoka's going to be here, and we haven't seen her. So
to be fair, no, I'm talking about in season 1. Season 1 set a standard of we're going to give you a cliffhanger, but we're not going to make you wait too long to answer it. You're just going to have to wait a week, one or maybe 2 weeks to answer it. All the questions they introduced. For the most part, there was a few minor things. But in this episode, this season they're giving us more. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't turn into there's new questions every week and not enough answers to kind of.
It doesn't turn into Lost or insert any other J.J. Abrams TV show.
Yeah, keep J.J. away from this. Look, I love the questions. look, I love J.J. and I think he's probably a super cool guy. I would love to hang out with him. And I love the questions he brings up.
Yeah,
I just don't love the answers.
That's fair.
I think he needs to come up with the answers first and then come up with the questions. He comes up with great questions. He comes up with really bad answers. All right, so Mando takes off. He flies away, kills a couple of guys on the roof. We get a kind of a look at the airfield behind them, which are those TIE Outlanders, which is pretty cool. And then
to an X-Wing package near you sometime soon.
Maybe not. They didn't seem like they were that good. They seemed kind of crappy. They seemed like they were a worse version of a TIE fighter. Their only advantage was they could land
now,
easier.
Here's my advantage for them being a cool TIE fighter.
Mm-hmm.
when I put them on my table in scale for Legion, because they're not so friggin' tall, they're going to be more interesting in dynamic terrain.
Sure, you can have them, especially if you put an actual hinge on them, and you can make it be like, "Hey, do you want this all the way up, or do you?" Because if you have a whole bunch of them all the way up, then you could just have do a hangar or an airfield or whatever. Yeah. But if you have some down too, like
but if you're down, they're more like barricade level, or maybe a little bit taller, but they're not just these giant square line of sight blockers.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, we're
that's great. That's great. Look, I put out the disclaimer at the beginning. We can go back and forth between the Star Wars games and then this. We can even talk about video games if you want, but outside of Squadrons, I don't have as much current relevant stuff.
Whenever the new Squadrons patch comes and we get custom lobbies, I'll go ahead and say it now. The Stabcast is going to challenge you and whoever you can rally from your subs or your followers to a match.
We're supposed to be getting custom games. I don't know. So the B-Wing patch and the TIE Defenders is coming on the 25th, which is in 2 days.
Right.
But there's another patch that I think has the custom games that is supposed to be on
before
Christmas. So December,
because I've already challenged a bunch of other content creators before Squadrons launched, thinking that would be a baked-in feature, and it wasn't. So consider yourself challenged.
You can't really do it. Like, I don't know. There's some people that are somehow able to do it, and I don't know how they do it. Like, there's tournaments that run. I'm like, how do you do a tournament and you can't play each? I don't know.
I think they probably have some kind of support from EA, which obviously the Stabcast is not big enough to pull.
Yeah, but well, you need to get on that.
I'll try.
Okay. All right. So they get out and they get back to this, this transport, and they have a shootout. They're kind of pinned down, and Cara Dune jumps on board and gets these guys out, and jumps it over the edge and crushes dude's speeder, and this kind of almost classic scene.
Right.
And it was a pretty well done scene. But then we get this awesome chase, and the bikes come out, and the bikes start. The bikes are chasing it down. So we're getting a high speed chase, a very Star Wars kind of scene, like a scene that's like, hey, we need you to make a Star Wars scene as Star Warsy as you can. And
once the speeder, like when we first see them running through the facility initially, and it's kind of abandoned, and the camera lingers on that speeder bike thing for a second. And my original thought was, oh, that's their ticket out of here. They're going to have to make a high-speed getaway, and we're going to see the team mount up on these bikes and fly away.
This was the chaotic Zoltan, who's like, no, I don't want to take the bikes that the GM planned for us to take. I want to take that thing because it's worth more money. And you're like, no, I don't even have stats for that thing. Yeah.
And this can still fly it.
Yeah, exactly. We can. But I rolled a Triumph, so I guess I can fly it. Yeah. So these bikers start killing themselves just on the way down, which I thought was kind of funny.
This sequence for me was the highlight of the episode.
It was very Star Warsy. I mean, you have a classic biker chase. I like that. I really like the white bikes. I mean, it's consistent because we saw white bikes were the color scheme on this planet from last season. Same bikes should have the same color scheme. I painted one of my Legion bikes sets in this color scheme.
Oh, did you? That's awesome.
When I was doing Hoth stuff, I figured bikes on Hoth would be white. And since this is rocky and like the sunlight shines on some of the rocks, makes it kind of gray. It works here too. But so I instantly loved the white bikes to see something I had painted as like a fan fiction become reality. But yeah, this was a great scene. He Grief Karga gets on the guns. He's trying to shoot back. He gets one, but then they kind of get on the side and. They ram one, which I thought was I saw that one coming, but the other guy climbs up on top. A great scene. I thought he was going to swing the turret around and knock him off, but dude,
there's something to that. Shoot some rocks up above, have it pelt on him.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways it could have went, but then this dude he held this Freddie Mercury pose, like he was saying a prayer before he did this, right? And I was like, what did you do? Just throw it in there and go. He's like,
because I think at the end of the day, this dude knows that he's dead.
Oh, I think he thinks he's like, I'm going to be the first biker scout to actually accomplish a mission. Like every biker scout who has ever gone out in service of the Empire has died. I will be the first one to win. If only Grandpa Bikey could see me now. Because his grandpa's name was Bikey, so he had to become a biker scout.
Yep. Lost him on Endor to the tiny teddy bears.
Oh my goodness, yeah. This is, he's got to avenge him.
Yep.
Yeah, so he gets blasted away. The helmet falls off. I thought they were going to do something else. I thought there was like going to be one last joke, but then the next joke is that this chase isn't over yet. The TIE fighters are now taking off, and so the cool thing about this, and we saw this in the trailer, but this was like. You may have thought initially, if you hadn't seen the trailer, that like Moff Gideon had the only TIE Outlander. Which, if you're not familiar, it looks like a TIE fighter. Not all TIE fighters' wings fold. This is a special type of TIE fighter called the TIE Outlander. That is,
if you don't have a big hangar to dock and store and get in and out of a regular TIE fighter in, it's got the lift kit.
Yeah, this is basically it's more like a helicopter in that you can set down anywhere you want and be able to get out easier. I don't have all the blueprints and all of the specs for it, but yeah, we do get a trench run, basically.
Yep.
Tom Walker in chat says trench run, and like, yeah, that's exactly where we're going. I also want to point something out here too, because I mentioned that this was from the trailer. This is a really important thing about this episode. Maybe one of the most important things, maybe in the top 5, maybe top 4 most important things about this episode is that seeing this episode, you've now seen everything
in the trailer.
Everything from the trailer.
The ads, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
we are in uncharted territory.
I know, and isn't that so Dude, they never did this for like Rebels. Right? No. Like they would give you everything from the final episode in the trailer for Rebels. Like they showed us like Darth Maul in a season 3 trailer. I'm like, dude, Darth Maul's going to be in it. So every episode that Darth Maul wasn't there, I'm like, oh, I guess he's going to be in the final episode. And sure enough, he was. Yeah. And that was the big reveal of the final episode. Kind of like, I'm like, oh, really?
Well, we've definitely, I mean,
if they did that style of trailer,
marketing team when you're making a live action show that's making, that's carrying the weight of Disney Plus on its back versus the cartoon show backed by Cartoon Network.
You've got to think Disney Plus was probably the majority of Disney's revenue through 2020. I mean,
probably, yeah.
It could have been. I mean, because their revenue obviously dropped to dang near nothing. I had stock in Disney, and it fell in 2020 for sure. But
sure,
I don't anymore. I got rid of it. But yeah, like, I mean, so now that the parks are open, now it's at least in some capacity, I'm sure those number of things are changing. But yeah, this show was like everything, for this network.
And yeah, I think I read that it's like 5. It's more popular and more viewed than 5 times as the next most popular thing on Disney Plus. So
sure,
can we just call it Mandalorian Plus now? Like,
I'm pretty sure this show isn't going to go away. I don't think they're going to do like Star Trek used to do everything 7 seasons and then end it. Like this one, now they're already I think they're planning for spinoffs.
Sure.
I think Bo-Katan is definitely a spinoff. I think the Boba Fett is going to be a spinoff. I think Ahsoka could be a spinoff. And
I think they hinted about a couple months after Rebels ended that Filoni wants to make the Sabine Ahsoka TV show next. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens, which I think will kind of take place in between where Rebels ends and this picks up. So
I think it could be after this, because this isn't that far after Rebels. Because all we know is that Rebels ends after the Battle of Endor,
right?
And we don't know exactly how far. Now this is 5 years after Endor, so honestly, these could have taken place around the same time. Like,
sure, theoretically, yeah.
I hate putting brand new content in between two things that are actually kind of close together. Unless it's just the first season and then it's going to overtake it, because I want it to kind of be able, especially a show that I have high hopes for, to have the ability to go into uncharted territory. And while The Mandalorian isn't exactly in that bubble, the bookend is 30 years out or 25 years out at this point, so it's largely uncharted territory. So I'm like, this show feels like it's got so much hype and promise for me. And if they wanted the entire Ahsoka show to be within like that 3 or 4 year gap, I would have a really tough time, because that was one of the things that made Rebels like have a very finite lifespan, as you knew it had to end before episode 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, so we get this high speed chase back to the show now. This trench run is pretty good. Now, I thought this is one part that made me think this was hilarious, is that Grief Karga's in there trying to aim this gun up, and he can't hit anything.
Can't hit anything.
And it's funny. It's like, I'm like, this is just Imperial technology. Maybe it's not the stormtroopers are so bad, or
maybe it's just Well, they're but the thing that got me is like he doesn't even seem to be really aiming the thing more than just following the targeting computer, even though he had a big old window. Like,
Yeah.
just start shooting stuff, dude. Just spray and pray, hit some rocks, knock some dust, do something.
Yeah,
That's what that's what the hero of this show would do.
Yeah.
That's what the Blue Man would do.
Grief Karga would. Oh, I know. He should have had Mithril do it.
He should have had Mithril in the pilot seat.
Wow, you're right. He should have had Mithril do it. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why they even let they didn't let Mithril drive and gun at the same time. Like he could have.
The badass commando lady who's been in countless battles. Why not let her, the weapons expert, get on the guns?
She didn't have points in gunnery. She only had ranged heavy.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. And so like he takes out he is able to take out one before it crashes into his gun and blows his gun up conveniently. That's why he succeeded but had to despair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for you guys who played the RPG, you'll get those references. The Star Wars RPG, you can succeed and fail at the same time, and it's a beautiful system. Ryan knows way more about it than I do, but it's really, really amazing. But yeah, right, they come right out and I felt like there's a Hail Mary play coming here. Like somebody's going to show up. There's going to be a Deus Ex Machina that's going to show up.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be X-Wings. I thought the New Republic
I was hoping it would be. Yeah. That would have been, with the little meta plot that's been then. It's not even really the B plot, it's the C plot of the series so far is
the New Republic's involvement in the Outer Rim.
And not just the New Republic's involvement, but the same, Dave Filoni and the other guy's name.
I'm just going to call him Appa.
Yeah.
Because
Appa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
how they keep showing up because they're the only two cops in the sector, and how they behave like state troopers.
I know, it's so
pilots.
It's so funny. Like I love it. Like it's just an enjoyable to see them on screen. It's just enjoyable. For one, it's cool to see an X-wing. It's cool to see a Rebel pilot uniform. Because the New Republic, they don't have T-70s yet. But it's also like that. Like I honestly, I'll get to it, but I honestly feel like we're going farther into the New Republic. As budget permits. So yeah, it's Mando. He shows up and he gets into a badass dogfight with these TIE fighters, and Baby Yoda is loving it. He's rocking out some of the close-ups. The sound department this year has been amazing. I think this whole sound department, whether it's effects or soundtrack or the score or all of this stuff, has been knocking it out of the park.
Absolutely.
But Baby Yoda's voice, this season has been, especially in this season, is just adorable. Like the subtle little things, it's just so cute.
So while this was a cool sequence, this was my ultimate biggest problem with the show.
How did he get his ship not only fixed in time, fixed well enough to dogfight and pull off hella sick moves?
That and because once again, the whole premise of this episode is built upon this is going to take a while.
Yep.
They convinced him to go on this mission because it's going to take a while. He takes his jetpack. He doesn't take a speeder bike. He takes his jetpack back to the town, which that speeder truck seemed like it was moving at a pretty good pace, and they weren't all that.
To be fair,
behind.
Cara Dune did use the plot device and say, "Take your jetpack. It's faster."
Yeah.
So it is faster.
I don't know that I buy that, but sure, I'll buy that. In Star Wars Land, I'll buy it. Take a speeder bike.
He could have had nitrous.
But yeah, the whole foundation that the narrative was built on is this is going to take a while for your ship to get fixed.
Oh, I have it. Hold on.
Yes.
It's a trench, right?
Yes.
I bet you they had to take all these winding roads and stuff and
so
go around. He took the short. Yeah, maybe he wasn't as fast, but the straight line he could travel through the air made it so much faster.
Sure. But still, he picks up the kid from school. We all know how much of a hassle it is to sign kids out of a school, especially a new school. They don't know your face. You wear a helmet. Get in the ship, which the landing gear didn't even work. He needs a jetpack just to get into his own ship, and then come in and save the day. I felt a little cheated. I would have loved it if it was X-Wings.
Yeah, no, I would have preferred, especially since X-Wings were going to show up anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
I think it boils down to stuff that was cut.
Stuff up, but
what I think would have made this a little bit more satisfactory is if it wasn't just two guys working on a ship, right? maybe one scene of like them saying, "All right, he wants his best people. All right, crew, get out here. Your lunch break is over in 5 minutes." And then you saw like 20 guys show up.
Yeah, you saw a bunch of guys and a bunch of droids come and bringing. Just because, I mean, if you look at I don't know if you have a still of the outside of his ship from like before when the show starts and when the show ends.
No,
But he's got like patchwork hulls and like tarps and canvas and
seaweed
duct tape
all over the
this
place.
thing together. And now it's shiny and beautiful.
It looks brand
and everything
new.
Works. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I figured it out. They had another one. It's a loner. They had he was on this ship. He was on this planet before. There was other Mandalorians. It was a whole nother ship. He had a spare. So instead of the Razor Crest, by the way, is the ship the ship called the Razor Crest, or is the class of vessel a Razor Crest? Kind of how Boba Fett.
People in the chat will correct me, but I believe that is his designation for the ship.
It sounds, there have been, based on the way people use the term, I always thought his ship was called the Razor Crest, and it was like some designation. We'll call it a RC-123 or whatever,
right?
But
I am wrong. It is the class, according to nerds in the chat.
I have heard other people say it's the other way around, like you have said. Razor Crest is the title. The chassis is a different name. See?
Oh, they're arguing in the chat. Good.
Use your aggressive
Star Wars
tendencies.
fans argue in the comments section. Good.
Wow, I can't believe he said that about your mother. No, just kidding. No, nobody did that. But the reason I say that is, I believe that that's probably the way it is because there's so much marketing behind the Razor Crest. Like this is his ship, and how terrible would it be if like there were 1,000 of Razor Crests? But that it's they've used it in certain texts like, oh, it's just some Razor Crest or something like that. Like I got to go back and find the episode where somebody said it and it just sounded like somebody was saying it like it was a comment, like it's some YT freighter or something like that. Like they use it in that context, like, oh, I've seen a million of those, So I don't know.
Your chat is way too civil. I need more torches, more pitchforks, please.
I tend to encourage civil conversation and respectfulness.
Nope. Torches and pitchforks.
No pitchforks for you, Zara. No soup for you. All right. So we do get a cool dogfight. If we take the assumption that it was a loner, then everything makes sense.
We're still going down this rabbit hole. All right.
Yeah. But we get a great dog. We get them playing chicken and Mando. Yeah. That's one other reason why I think like this in X-Wing, because his ship is, while it's a good freighter, it doesn't seem like it's super maneuverable. Usually the big ships in X-Wing aren't like the best dueling ships. They're just tough and like hopefully they outlast you and they win that way.
Well, I mean, that's the problem. You never joust with a ship bigger than you. They got more red dice than you fly around and use the asteroids.
But this guy was pulling off like K turns and all kinds of stuff. Like it just like Talon roll. Like he was like Poe Dameron flying this thing. So now he's obviously done crazy moves like this before. We saw, but yeah, great, but a pretty cool dogfight with a ship that isn't really built for dogfighting.
Yeah, and once again, if you suspend the disbelief for the timetable and what the plot is predicated on, it's ultimately a great scene.
Yeah, the rule of cool is in effect for the dogfight. Like the rule of cool was totally awesome, and I do see your thing. Like I definitely was like that's one of those things that was kind of in the back of my mind that didn't rise to the front, but I'm like, they did say it was going to take a long time. It didn't really take that long, but long enough for Baby Yoda to puke because he ate all the macaroons.
Because he ate all the cookies, which is just, I mean, it's disgusting and adorable.
How long until we get my first puking Baby Yoda toy? Where you push the belly?
I guarantee you it'll be in stores on Black Friday.
Yeah. Oh, and his cape as baby wipes.
Like you just kind of squeeze Baby Yoda and projectile vomit.
Yeah.
It's going to be all the rage this holiday season.
Yeah. Robert Anderson says the class of the ship is a gunship, and the name is Razor Crest, according to Wikipedia. So I think gunship is more of a general term. That's not an actual ship class, but that's probably the ship category, and that's what they're using right now since we don't have... Because if it's a ship class in Star Wars, it's going to have a number. It's going to have, Corellian gunship 123 CG or something, or whatever, And then, of course, we get to kind of like the roundabout. Like, Mando flies away. He's like, "Look, I can't come back down to have drinks with you.
Yeah.
I gotta go find Ahsoka." And then we have like the aftermath of the episode work. And I like the pace. We didn't have the climax right at the end.
I really like just this sequence because it reminds us that more is going on than just Mando. Like, I love that it takes that downbeat to go back to Navarro and see what's happening with our other characters, because this show, while it is the Mandalorian show, we do have this reoccurring cast of characters that we're invested in, and it gives us a little payoff for that.
Absolutely. And so we get this whole talk, and this is just like a cop kind of asking the good guy, but not super good. Like, so what else did you see? I'm like, oh, I didn't see anything else, officer. I'll tell you. I'll call you if I do.
Right.
Yeah, which is funny. It's like, so when the Razor Crest left, it's like, I never said it was a Razor Crest. I'm like, and I think he said a Razor Crest. I don't think he said the Razor Crest, right? So things like that make me think, like, wait,
See,
I don't know. Somebody said you might be right. I love hearing you might be right, even if it's not directed at me. I love just imagining that it's directed at me. I might be right about the double crit. I might be right about the Ewoks with lightsaber nunchucks. You never know. All right.
This is why I miss playing an RPG with you, Tim.
Dude, it'll happen again someday. Now that I've GM'd, I recognize like more of the benefits of like the contained chaos. Like contained chaos is really cool. Like, all right, like once every 4 episodes, I'm gonna open it up, but I'm gonna wait until like you look like you're struggling, and I'm like, all right, if you're struggling anyway, let's make it a true struggle, right? If you obviously don't have a plan at this point, so whatever mischief I put you through isn't crapping all over your like oh crap, this whole stack of paperwork on these maps you just nuked that planet. That's where the last freaking 4 years of my campaign went to.
Those were my favorite conversations while we were playing that game. Was like you coming back to the table, like once you had started GMing your home game and being like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah, it was well because so I had engineered like this awesome, like the way to start this campaign was going to be roughly a prison break, and there was some, I spent like the first part of COVID, like not being able to really like work. I spent a lot of that like work time working on like drawing out maps and every map, like trying to make loose plot points. Like I want, like, here's 10 things that can happen in here. I kind of want like at least 6 of them to happen, but we'll see. And like this person should be around here, and they have connections to this person. Blah. So I had probably like 40 pages of maps and dialogue and things like that. And then like we had one guy who was like kind of a newcomer, and the first thing he wanted to do was like dance with a Gamorrean in prison and like romance this Gamorrean and just like make a best friend. Like, this guy's trying to kill you. I'm like, I want to just convince him there's a better way. And I'm like,
this is just a rule. I am almost always on the GM side of the screen, and every time, and I love playing with new players. Every time you get a new player, they have to push the 4th wall and see how far they can go. They have to see what they can get away with.
And that was me. I mean, like when I started Recover the Supplies, I was still pretty new, and like and that was kind of a cool thing because we had you're the veteran, you have Jay who's like brand new. And then you have me, who's kind of in the middle. Like, I've played, like, 1 campaign, so I have an idea, but I still, like, I only had experience from one GM's perspective. So, like, I don't know how the rest of the world plays. So I still had questions. And
but watching people play with those invisible walls and seeing, and it varies from GM to GM, table to table, on what all you can get away with. But just watching people, like, when they dig holes that they thought that you as the game master would just put the wall up, the invisible wall in the video game, that you can't go that direction, and they dig themselves a hole they can't get out of, and you just sit there and are like, have fun, let's roll some dice, let's see how you've messed yourself up today.
I told them really early on, I'm like, I will kill you. Like, I'm not going to like I'm not gonna let I'm not gonna just be like, well, you guys have plot armor so you can't die. I'm like, no. But then I felt bad because one time it was like not their fault at all. I'm like, all right, you rolled a double despair. Okay, well, all of that sound you heard was a Rancor, and they show up, and then when I like went to roll the Rancor's attack, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna kill somebody. He's gonna insta kill whoever he attacks.
Like, sure is.
I'm like, all right. Well, he's a wounded Rancor, so he's not gonna roll.
I tell all my players, your choices, your consequences. We don't fudge dice.
Yeah, but that was like that. But that was on me. Like, I probably shouldn't have chosen a Rancor for like level 1 characters and stuff like that. So, So
Yeah.
we changed it a little bit, but that's part of the learning curve, and
Absolutely.
and it's so much fun. And I know we keep going back to the RPG because that's one of the things we have in common. But I've found that being a GM is more enjoyable than being a player, and because of the way, like I at least in the campaign that I'm working on right now, I've kept it so open ended that they're taking me on a ride.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's frustrating. Like we're doing something right now that is totally off script, and I'm having to like come up with it on the fly. But
The best part is if you really sit down and ask your players, they don't notice.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the coolest thing in the world when they think that you've got this.
Maybe your players don't notice because you're so good. Like my players are like, dude, you have no idea what you're doing right now, really. Yeah. Why is there a fleet of X-wings and all of the pilots are Kawaki and monkey lizards?
That you're just riffing and making stuff up.
Gosh.
You just give them a puzzle, an encounter, and while they're arguing, you're just like, well, I got to design whatever's going to happen 5 minutes from now.
Did you ever see Gremlins 2?
Yes.
Let that be the plot for your next game. Like, so they board. They're in a tractor beam by a star destroyer or something like that, and they board. And like the crew is all Kawaki and monkey lizards, and like they're all like wearing costumes, like they think they're Imperials, and they're walking around like, and like one has like like thick glasses, one has like a cigar, and he's like like, and like they have to figure out what in the hell is going on here, and it turns out it's some gas or something. There you go.
All right.
Free of charge. Yeah.
You're gonna stream this when I GM it, right?
Sure, man. I'll play in it because I don't know the end point, so you still have to figure that part out. Yeah. All right. So anyway, so we have the interrogation, and then he kind of goes out, and then he's talking to Cara Dune, and this is kind of where it becomes more interesting because you get a little bit of depth here, and they talk about Alderaan, and she was kind of wanted, I think, for like war crimes. I forget exactly what it was. But I think that basically, what had gone down, like, Grief Karga, like, kind of vouched for her and kind of said, all right, they kind of dropped the charges considering.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression, and maybe I'm wrong, because I don't have time to read all the comics and read all the books and all the extra periphery stuff. Mm-hmm. I kind of got the idea that she was a fighter that never stopped fighting. Like, when the war was over, it wasn't quite enough for her.
Yeah, and being a marshal lets her still get some of that out of her system. I mean, like, she's still wearing... Yeah. Actually, I think it's kind of cool that she's still wearing the same outfit. Because, like, for merchandising, it's almost like, wait a second, you guys could have totally given her a new costume and sold a second action figure, but you're not doing that. So, like... And I think there's something that goes along with that. It's like, recognizing characters, I think, is important. Like, the fact that Darth Vader always looks like Darth Vader means you know who he is. Like, if he had a different costume, if Disney made the original Star Wars today, you'd have like, silver and, Darth Vader with like freaking
Vader
wings.
Would look different in every movie.
Yeah. Kind of like what DC did with Batman back in like the 90s when the Tim Burton Batman movie came out, and like you had like 47 like Aqua Batman, Space Batman, Silver Batman, Gold Batman,
Merchandising.
Oh yeah, and I had quite a few of those Batman too. They were really cool. But anyway, yeah, it takes away some of the identity when you lose that much. So, he gives her this this. I don't even know what this is. It looks like it's an award to me, because like the colors at the bottom look kind of like a military ribbon,
like a stripe. Yeah.
Like, so when you get a medal. Usually there's like, at least in today's military in the United States, you get a medal and it has a piece of cloth attached to it, but you also get a ribbon, which is like kind of the same design of the cloth that is designed to go on your dress uniform, and this looks like the same symbol, a very similar symbol for like a meritorious service medal or something like that. I don't recall exactly which one this is most closely resembles, but regardless, it's probably been altered to not be copying something directly, but. I don't know if this has a connection to Alderaan. Maybe it's like an Alderaan service, like to say you served during Alderaan or
maybe. I kind of got the idea that maybe because he kind of like leaves it for her and says like, if you change your mind, like call us. Maybe if it's some kind of like code cylinder that'll give her a way to like get in contact with your local rebellion recruiting center.
Sure. Here's one. Here's, and this one just came to me. You remember episode 9? Episode 9.
I do.
Yeah, unfortunately. What was one of those MacGuffins that was in there, like the captain's key that old girl had?
There were 17 MacGuffins in that movie, but
Zori Bliss had this mystical item that would let them get past anything. It was called the Captain's Key, and it was about this size, right? It was like a disc,
Yeah.
right? And maybe this is the New Republic's equivalent of that. Maybe she submits this into, or she gives this to somebody, and they're just like, no questions asked. Yeah, you're welcome back into the New Republic.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what Nisk means.
Oh man. Yeah, I need a new arm. Apparently.
Yeah, you do.
Man, that was rough. That was really rough. Dude, do you remember that last session? Like, I got hit so many. If you guys haven't seen Recover the Supplies too, man, I got shot with like 1,000 damage.
Went out with a literal bang.
Yeah, and I lost my arm. And I'm a crazy guy who likes to cut stuff, so
you do.
It's gonna be tough.
I'm expecting in the headcanon of that chauffeur for you, like you get your arm and it's just like a laser buzzsaw on the end where a hand should be.
Well, I had a special thing planned for that, which
sure you did.
So here's like I had a cheat way out, which I didn't know if Brendan was gonna allow. I shouldn't even be talking about this live, but oh well, maybe Brendan will watch. Maybe. Hi Brendan, if you're watching. But I had the medical. I had specialized as a medic, and I also had this force power in medicine that I could try and make a 3 difficulty medicine check, and it would, in addition to healing me, would get rid of a critical. Well, losing an arm was a critical, so I was going to attempt to regrow my arm with the force, and it was going to be locked in at 3 difficulty. Now, he could have upgraded it. He could have even given me setbacks since I was doing it minus an arm. And so it could have been very interesting. But
I don't know that.
Or he could have just said, you know what? No.
Yeah, I don't know. At my table, I probably would have straight up just said no. But just because, like, I only roll dice when the outcome is undetermined.
Yeah.
And also because to me that feels cheap.
Yeah. No, it does.
Because, like, you going and getting a new arm and coming to terms with that, I think is a great moment for where Zoltan was headed and developing.
Oh, no, yeah. The other option was they put me in the Dark Trooper chambers.
Yes, which I actually really wanted.
I thought that was more fun. That was more along the chaotic route. Well, here's what I would do. Like, since I've GM'd now quite a bit, if somebody tried to do that, I'm like, okay, you're just trying to remove the critical. So maybe that critical comes off of your chart, but it doesn't regrow the arm. Like maybe you heal the stump. You heal the stump perfectly well. So maybe and so there's different ways you do it. Or maybe you do heal the critical and you grow like part of an arm, but it's like a baby's arm. Like there's things you could do with it.
We could go full Deadpool with it. Yeah.
That'd be so great. So then we get like the final kind of end, almost like a post-credits scene, but it's before the credits, so it doesn't count. We get this amazingly detailed Arquitens cruiser, and I don't know if it's a new class of Arquitens. Like, I'll say this: the capital ships they've shown, whether it was that Gazanti from last episode or this one, they show them up close, way more greebles, way more detail. They look absolutely breathtaking. Such really that do. Like I want like a whole new game now with all of this stuff. Of course we get this new comms officer, and she is apparently going to be. I think she's going to be in more episodes because people have looked her up on IMDb and stuff, and she's a trained martial artist. So we may see some, like, if we see like a Darksaber fighting or something like that, she might have some hand-to-hand scenes where she's fighting some Mandalorians or something. Like there's potential for that since we're in uncharted waters now.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so she reports to Moff Gideon, who is saying, "All right, good, we'll be ready." He almost has like a half smile too. It's like the first time somebody's reported to him that wasn't a failure. So he's like, "Oh, you're kind of like General Veers. You're like the one Imperial that doesn't fail." All right, cool. But then it ends on this, right? The Dark Troopers. Now, and this is what people have been talking about all along. I will say there have been some question on if these are like just what they are exactly, but I'm confirming that these are Dark Troopers. They are what you think. They are. It says so in the descriptive text. So if you're watching with descriptive text enabled, it says like pans out to scene of Dark Troopers.
Like it was like a mobilized Dark Troopers or something like that.
Yeah.
Now,
so that could mean something different, but
that could mean whatever you want it to mean, because I honestly do appreciate it. Disney made the announcement after their purchase that they were throwing out all of anything that wasn't on screen. Like, because I had spent so much time, so much effort in my youth, just gorging myself on all that material, I felt a little sad that it didn't have a lot of worth. But for them to tell new and interesting stories, like, because the old canon had mapped everything out, there weren't going to be any surprises for us.
Yeah.
What Filoni especially has done with Thrawn, like, the central idea is the same, but they changed some things as needed.
Yeah, they had to make it fit into a different puzzle, right?
And so while this is going to pay an homage to Dark Troopers, they're not, the Kyle Katarn Dark Troopers that we know and love. I'm sure they have.
I don't know
some
that.
different
We could
bents.
see Kyle Katarn next episode. Actually, I think. So if we could put bets on things that we might see, like, I think there's a very realistic chance during the remainder of this season that we see an HWK 290 on screen. The Moldy Crow, like Kyle Katarn's ship. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's first off, it's a canon ship because it was in it was in the whatchamacallit, it was in one of the comics. So Kane and Jarrus comic, or the Caleb Doom comic. So we could totally see that. Plus, it fits, with the whole scum and villainy theme. But I mean, there's also the chance we could see Kyle Katarn.
Sure.
Here's something I speculated is, like, what if he does kind of go on a mission? What if he works with Mando or whatever? Like, they go on a mission to infiltrate and get the plans for something else, like not the Death Star, but they go on a mission to get plans for maybe this dude's got like a base or something like that, or maybe the plans to these Dark Troopers, right?
Right.
It could be, analogous, but not exactly the same thing. I could see that happening. It'd be a great homage to it, and then you'd get Kyle Katarn back, and I think we'd all love that. And he gets training from Ahsoka instead of Luke, right?
Maybe we could definitely go. I honestly felt like Kanan, though, filled a lot of the same plot, not all of, but a lot of the plot holes that Kyle Katarn kind of filled.
I thought Kanan and Ezra was more of a love letter to the way, before the prequels came out, the way you expected Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship to be.
Sure. I can definitely.
Because you really believed that they were friends, whereas Anakin and Obi-Wan, you're like, these guys hate each other. So I know I loved the episode. I can't wait to see what they do with Dark Troopers.
Yeah, I'm super pumped.
It's a great way to, especially if they're Force-sensitive troopers, it's a great way to kind of give some balance if Ahsoka has to show up on screen.
Yep.
Like, it's somebody worthwhile for her to fight. Like that's good, and potentially Mandalorians too. Like, hopefully, I think we're kind of building towards a season finale where we see Boba Fett and Bo-Katan, and maybe not Boba Fett. Maybe Boba Fett's going to be like a season 3 or 4 thing. Maybe he's going to show up once per season. But
no, but I think if we look at all of the things from the comics and the games and the old canon about Dark Troopers that we know and love, the one constant is the jetpack.
Yeah.
And I think it is no coincidence that, the jetpack is a heavily used plot device so far in this season of The Mandalorian, that eventually we're going to get to harken back to episode 9. They fly now, and we're going to have some cool aerial fights between, Mando, Bo-Katan, and whoever else has to jetpack against some flying Dark Troopers.
That's probably a very good idea, and hopefully Bo-Katan's newly found weapons will will work into this. There's so many things, but yeah, these guys could definitely show up in Legion.
Yep.
We have to see more of them first. I mean, Gideon could definitely show up in Legion.
Yeah.
More people using the Darksaber is always a good thing. It does kind of make me sad that they made Sabine's the Darksaber like Sabine only, when I'm like, wait, I want Maul to be able to use it.
So I'll give a bit of a spoiler on something that I don't know that I'm supposed to talk about yet, but I'm going to, because I'm here.
You're late into the episode. Nobody's even watching anymore.
That's true. So at the LVO narrative event, if you're going to the Las Vegas Open, I'm in charge of running that bad boy, and there is a mission where Sabine and Boba show up, and whichever side wins gets the Darksaber. And for one weekend, Boba Fett can use the Darksaber, which in our play testing has been hilarious.
He needs a strong weapon.
Flamethrower card with Arsenal. he gets to use the Darksaber with the weight because he's got Arsenal printed on his card.
Oh,
the Darksaber plus his Flamethrower card is just lousy together.
Oh, I bet. Now, you only multiply the flamethrower weapon for every mini,
Correct.
not the whole attack,
Correct.
right? Yeah. But yeah, well, you're getting Pierce on that.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
So that is some fun things because the narrative event is all about the silly what ifs and fun battles. So it's definitely not going to be straight up Legion.
No, I look forward to it. I can't wait to see more. I'm curious if they do more Darksabers cards because, of course, they did the one. I'm sure they could always do more.
Yeah, they could do more.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll all be different, kind of like how Anakin's lightsaber is different in Anakin's hands.
Changed it. Yeah.
Yeah, which, that's fine. But, well, the thing is, it does stand to reason that it would be better in his hands than it is in Luke's hands. Yeah.
Yeah, so. it's their die pools and search profiles and keywords are a combination of the weapon's raw ability and their skill with it. So yeah.
Exactly. Like not everybody can use lightsaber nunchucks quite as well as I can.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for the episode, and it's been fun talking to you,
dude. I've missed hanging out with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. So, you guys, if you haven't already, check in the video description below. You can check out the Stab Cast, and they're over at Podbean. And where else are you guys available? You guys anywhere?
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, all of our handles, because Stabcast was taken by some murder mystery show. We are SW Stabcast most places, but if you just type in Stabcast, you'll find us. But yeah, we're pretty casual, highly opinionated, very little evidence for our opinions Legion podcast, and we have a good time. I like to think of us as the most fun Legion podcast. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I'm going to say.
No, that's cool. And you also have another guy named Tim, who is also
we
really
do have our very own Tim.
Yeah, and he's awesome.
He's all right.
He's my favorite.
Wow, that hurts. All right.
I mean, my favorite that's not on the show, right?
Oh, I see. Good recovery. Well done.
Yeah. Because he had, honestly, it was all because of one little thing that I just latched on. It's because his name is Tim, but because he said something about the turn 0 is nonsense or whatever. Oh, don't ever bid for initiative. Always put all your points on there because then you're just throwing points away. First player, second player, who cares? Just play your best. And I'm just like, oh, I love this guy. I love that. Use all your points. Put more minis on the table. Don't take minis off the table in hopes that you're going to win. I'm going to take minis off the table for you when I shoot you. That's my idea. I don't know.
Y'all are wrong, but that's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, and it is okay. I prefer being red player almost all the time.
Hey, we have a whole segment on our show called The Red Player's Dilemma. So
it's amazing. The different things going second. So blue player they have to choose first. So sometimes you want to pass, but now you can't because you don't know what I'm going to do. Red player has such an advantage when it comes to picking.
I'm not going to say it does. It can. It can.
Yeah. It often does. I'll say that. I'm going to go farther than can and say often does. Doesn't always. But man, but knowing that you're going last, so if blue player takes a gamble and passes on that second pick, now you have full control.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty. Anyway, I have fun. I usually prefer to be red player, so that's why I'm I want to put all my points out there, and then so be it. But, all right, well, I guess that's gonna wrap things up. Yeah. We're pretty much talked all about the episode. Thank you guys for hanging out.
Yeah,
thank you for all the questions.
Chilling with us.
And we will talk to you guys soon. I will talk to you. More picture what?
More pitchforks. Your chat needs more pitchforks.
Oh no, they're too nice. Well, there's pitchforks.
Too nice. That's what I'm saying.
We sometimes play Among Us. I'll do that on live stream and in the Discord, and we get into voice chat with each other. There's pitchforks there. I always
do that on a night I work, and it makes me sad.
I pick random nights. I did it last night. Hey, you know what? We can play some Among Us after this. You know what? If you want to play, man, hop in my Discord. Well, maybe we'll do that in about I need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I need to pick up Among Us, so that'll take me a few minutes. But yeah, that may work.
It's free on mobile. You have ads.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's $3 on Steam. So,
all right, not a big deal.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
See you, buddy.
All right.
Bye, everybody.